Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you 10 book recommendations which will give you the feels, okay? I'm saying feels because each and every one of these books is deeply rooted in some emotion, and I'm sure that many people feel different things while they are reading different books, and some people might even feel different things for the same book. But I'm sure that anyone who reads any of these books will feel the exact same thing which I'm saying right now, because I think the core of all these books is this emotion around which the author actually wraps the story. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book that I'm recommending is The Kingdom of Pack by Marie Lu. Now this is a historical fantasy where we see Wolfgang Mozart's elder sister, who is Nannerl Mozart, as our main character, and because of the patriarchy that was present in that time, though Nannerl Mozart was just as talented as Wolfgang Mozart, she was not at all recognized and her stories were just left untold. In this book, Marie Lu actually focuses on her as the main character and just shows the plight of this little girl who just has this single fear of being not remembered after she's dead. The story actually revolves around this one single feeling, and it is totally sad, but the thing which makes it very different from normal sad stories is that it is very whimsical, because there's this fictional world called the Kingdom of Pack, which both the siblings have invented for themselves in their minds so that they can just escape into it, because they are having a very hectic schedule as they are very talented. They have to travel across Europe and put on many performances, because of which they get sick very often. It is basically just a book which shows these two little children growing up and putting up performances in front of people just because their parents could earn something while missing their childhood. And in order to escape from all these things, they just create this fictional world called the Kingdom of Pack, and the sadness that is experienced by Nannerl will be felt by each and every reader who reads this. The next book is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a very dark and heavy book and is completely for adults alone. Now this is a literary fiction in which we follow our main character named Vanessa, who is 32 years old now and 15 years back from 2017, which is the now of the story. When she was 15, Vanessa had this romantic relationship with one of her teachers in high school, and she thinks that she was in a romantic relationship with him. But now in 2017, what happens is there are multiple allegations which come against the teacher, just in the same way that happened to Vanessa. Now she has to rethink her past and evaluate whether the things that happened to her during the time she was in school were romantic or were they things which were done just to groom her. Now this is a book which will be very difficult to read in terms of the content. There are also some scenes in this book which will definitely make anyone who's reading them angry, because we can just see that to what level wrong the things that are happening in this one are. The best thing which the author does is that she just shows us what's happening in the rawest form possible without telling us what we have to feel, okay? That's the thing which makes this book a really grand success, if you ask me personally, because I'm sure that anyone who reads this book, while they read certain scenes, they'll just feel that anger which makes their blood boil, and it is something which needs to be there for any human being out there. So if you can't handle such hard and heavy content, please do try this one, because I think this is a book which needs to be read by many more people and discussed, because it can open up our eyes to many things that are happening around the world which are definitely not right. Anger is the grandest emotion that you will feel while reading My Dark Vanessa. Now jumping on to a lighter note compared to My Dark Vanessa, we have The Belated Bachelor Party by Ravinder Singh. Now this is just a contemporary fiction, okay? In this we just have these four characters who used to be roommates during college time, and 10 years after their college they are meeting again, and none of them had had a bachelor party before they got married. So they decide to take this trip to Europe and treat that as a bachelor party for all of them alone. Now many hilarious things happen in this trip, and there are even scenes during which they are misinterpreted to doing some crime and are strip searched. No matter what gender you belong to, if you read this book, there are multiple scenes in there which will just make you pause reading and laugh, because they will be that funny. And there are also multiple instances in the book which I'm sure that many people will be able to relate with their own lives. All of us might have had at least one of these experiences that the author has written as scenes with our friends in our real life itself. So if you want to just laugh out loud and have a really good time and feel very positive and happy after finishing the book, please do try this one, because it is super funny as well as it is very light-hearted. The next emotion that I want to talk about is rage, and it's definitely one of my most favorite emotions when it comes to reading in books. And the best series or books that I can think of when it comes to rage is the Nevernight Chronicle by Kristoff, okay? I read this only this year, and trust me, it's definitely one of my favorite series right now, because this main character, Mia Corveri, is someone who has that much rage in order to avenge the death of her family. Here we just follow this 16-year-old girl named Mia Corveri, who trains to become an assassin in order to kill a person who was responsible for the death of her family. Now, I'm saying that this is rage because the things that Mia goes through in order to avenge her family is extremely high, okay, and there are also multiple twists that happen throughout the series. Now, halfway through the first book, it might seem like you can see the direction in which the story is moving, but the author just twists everything in the last 100 pages of the first book and just sets the path of the series itself in a really different direction. And I can surely say by the end of the second book, many people will be staggered. Even now, the second book in the series is my most favorite, and try this, I'm sure there are instances during which the rage itself will make you cry because it is so powerful. Now, the next book in itself is an emotion, and it is A Man Called Uva by Fredrik Backman. Now, this is the debut novel of the author, but trust me, it does not feel like a first book at all because it is super good. You just have to go blind into this book. It is just about this old man named Uva who's living all alone in his house, and there are some neighbors who come next to his house and they just turn his life around in a different path. There are things that are going on in Uva's mind which we cannot make sense of because we don't know who he is, but the way in which the author switches in between the present and the past, narrating Uva's story to us and how he has become the person that he is right now and the beliefs that he has towards life, and at the same time, while not giving up on his beliefs, he helps people constantly. There are many things which happen really beautifully as well as very tragically in Uva's life that we get to know from the backstory of him while the author narrates it to us. But I'm sure that while you finish reading this book, you'll just feel this sense of warmth that is just spreading in your heart, literally, because it is that kind of a book. You can read this during any part of the year, okay? Even if you're depressed, I'm sure that you can read A Man Called Uva. It might feel like this might be the wrong book for you for reading while you're feeling depressed, but you just have to keep reading, okay? After you finish like 70 or 90 pages of the book, the tone of the book changes and you don't understand how you got to such a great, wonderful, beautiful place from a very dark place, and by the end you will just feel so light and happy and you'll just want to have Uva in your life. It is that beautiful a book. So warmth is the emotion that everyone will feel while reading A Man Called Uva. The next one is a book which expresses friendship and especially the love part inside friendship. I'm sure that any person who has a close friend will love them in one way, and this book will express that, and it is Firefly Lane by Kristin Hannah. Now, this is a book about two girls in the 1970s who meet each other due to multiple circumstances that make them meet, and they share some parts of their soul with each other, and that creates a beautiful bond between them. The story actually starts in the 1970s and travels across up until the early 2000s, and the way in which the author actually builds up this friendship between these two female characters is really awesome, okay? The author herself, being a female, has just beautifully developed this friendship, okay? No matter who you are, you'll be able to feel the amount of love these both women have for each other and the care that they express for each other while you're reading the book, okay? It is definitely a friendship which is totally realistic, okay? When it comes to any type of close friendship, there will be many emotions which include jealousy also, which will play a huge part in keeping that relationship together, and that jealousy part is also wonderfully explored by the author in this one. Please do try this one. I know that there's a Netflix series out for this one. I have not watched it, but while you read this, I'm sure you will be able to see that love aspect of the friendship no matter who you are, because these two characters are so pure, at least to each other as friends, and that will just give you the feels. The next one is The Boy Who Loved by Durjoy Datta, and the emotion that I relate to this book is depression, okay? Because it is very clear that the main character whom we see here is suffering through depression, and the best part is that while you're reading about his depression, you are very much addicted to get to know a lot more about him and his family, his life completely, okay? There's also this romance which parallelly happens throughout the book, but I can definitely say that this is not a book which focuses more on the romance but on the depressing life that Raghu is leading right now. The author has just given these multiple layers for his character, and despite the fact that he's being so depressed in life, you can just see Raghu as a human being, as a real person who's telling his story through his journal to you. It feels like that, and while you're reading this one, you will also feel that depression that he feels. There is even a probability that you might feel depressed because of this book, because it is that impactful. I totally enjoyed the experience of reading this one, but if you're having a hard time, please don't read this one or My Dark Vanessa or Nevernight because they are totally dark. But if you like reading such stuff and exploring some things like that, please do read them, because I'm sure that all of them tackle depression beautifully, but this one is centrally rooted on that emotion, and I'm sure everyone who reads this will feel depressed in a good way. Next book in the list is a super famous book, and it is The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. Now, this book, despite having the title that it is the 40 Rules of Love, it does not focus totally on the romantic type of love that we see in most novels, but this one is totally rooted on self-love, okay? Only by loving yourself you can show others how to love you and respect you, and there's no other person in the world who can love you more than you yourself can. many of us don't understand it at all. Even I don't understand it completely. But after having read this book, I just understood that we cannot love anyone more than we love ourselves, and it is super necessary. It might sound selfish to some people, but the amount of love that you show yourself will reflect in the love that you show to others also. So in order to project your love properly to others, you'll have to project it to yourself first, and you cannot be hard on yourself for the things that are going on wrong in your life. So I highly recommend this for people who are depressed just because of the fact that they are single, okay? Because while reading this book, you'll just understand how much love you can show for yourself without depending on anyone or anything for that. And while you read this, it'll just make you understand how much necessary it is to show that love you show for others to yourself, because you're the person who deserves it more than anyone else in the world, and the only person who's capable enough to give that much love to you is yourself. So if you've not read it still, please do go forward and read it. It's famous for a reason, and I'm sure that anyone who reads this will feel that in some corner of their heart. The next one is a very peculiar book, and I've talked about this many times in the channel, but I want even more people to read this, and it is The Life of Pi by Yann Martel. This is definitely super famous because of the Life of Pi movie. I'm sure that many of you would have watched the movie, but trust me, if you read this book, you'll just experience that complete feel that our main character Pi experiences, okay? The emotion that I relate to this book is surreality, because the things that happen in this book are so rare that you cannot even imagine things like them to happen in the world. But there is the scene where the author just tells us that if I tell you that a human being is caught in the sea all alone and survives for 200 days and makes it out alive, you'll believe it. And when I say that there's a tiger which is stuck in the sea for 200 days and it also makes it outside alive, you'll be able to believe it. But if I just put these two together, that is a human being and a tiger caught in the same lifeboat together, and they survive without killing each other for 200 days and make it out alive, you'll not be able to believe it, because that's the thing that the author completely explores, okay? The one thing which fascinated me the most in this one is that we can always think of and read stories from the head of a human person, but we cannot find stories that are from the head of an animal. You can just understand, right? While you can see these two things, that is a human surviving and the tiger surviving separately, you'll be able to believe it. But when you put them both together and both of them survive without killing them, it is super strange and very surreal, and I'm sure that anyone who reads it will experience it. The last and final book in this list is the most brutal book, literally the most brutal book that I've ever read so far in my life, and it is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Now, the feeling or emotion that I attach with this book is rawness, okay? And if you're a person who's not comfortable with reading violence in your stories or books, please don't even think of reading this, because this book in itself is 400 pages of brutal, raw violence, which just makes your blood go chill and feel disgusted because it is that raw. I read this book very, very slowly because of that reason, and I must say that I just enjoyed the amount of darkness that Gillian Flynn has given to this book, okay? I can say that this is the darkest of all her books so far. She has written 4 books totally. I've read all 4 of them, and I don't think that even Gone Girl is as dark as Dark Places, because the extent to which Gillian Flynn zeroes into each and every character and shows us what is happening through their eyes is super dark, okay? And all of us have these dark places inside our heads which we ourselves are so much frightened of exploring, and the author actually goes forward and explores some of the dark places inside the heads of some characters, and while you read it, you will be able to feel that raw darkness. So yes guys, those are the 10 books which I wanted to recommend, which will give you the feels. And if you did find this video enjoyable and interesting in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel, because I publish new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.